I'm just thinking, no, it's just a picture. And she's like, no, it's not. It never hit me what it meant to all those people. It's really, how many pictures are like that in the world? My name's Robert Beck. I'm a sports photographer based in San Diego. Been shooting since 1984, mid-80s, something like that. Got married and I moved down to San Diego, and I was substitute teaching, and I had a full-time gig in the fall and winter semester, and I was coaching a football team. And then after that was over, I had nothing to do in the afternoons. I was still teaching during the day, but I thought, okay, I need to make a little bit of money. How can I do it? And I borrowed my dad's camera and a lens, and I would go to high school sporting events. They wanted to buy a print, they could, and they would, I'd just take an order and have the stuff printed and then take it back. And I actually saved enough money to buy my own camera equipment. In the meantime, I moved back to LA, but I lived about a block and a half from the beach in Manhattan. So two things kind of happened. I was so close to the beach that there's a lot of times when the surf is good for an hour. Maybe it's the winds, the tides, the swell angle. And so I was always there, and I could go and shoot it right away. So I got better at the surf photography. And I also lived in this hotbed of beach volleyball. And that's when I first, not that I'm good friends with them, but met, Mike Dodd, Tim Hovland, and all those guys, and I'd see them playing beach volleyball, and every once in a while I'd go to a tournament and just kind of would shoot them and whatnot. After a while, I wanted to start shooting other, what I call big-time American sports, baseball, football, basketball, all that. In '86, I had my first job for Sports Illustrated, and it went great. The very first one was abnormal, but became a table of contents. In those days, that was the second biggest picture other than a cover. And then Life magazine made it one of their pictures of the decade. So that was a good start, and it just kind of kept rolling from there. It was a picture of the Ironman triathlon in Hawaii. And at the time, I was going over there for that stock agency the day before I went in to town to get my credentials and stuff. And she's tapping her fingers on the table, and I'm just waiting. Finally, she puts her hand over his phone, and she's real irritated. She says, "Can I help you?" And I said, "Yeah, my name's Robert Beck." And as soon as I said that, she slams the phone down. She says, "I just called your offices to tell them that you weren't here yet, and what should we do?" And I said, I don't really know what everybody's talking about. And she says, "Well, aren't you shooting for Sports Illustrated?" I said, "No, I don't think so." And it's kind of funny because as a sports photographer in those days, if you said Sports Illustrated, that was like the top of the mountain. I felt like everybody was punking me or, trying to pull a fast one. And she said, "Focus West." And I said, "Yeah, that's the stock agency." And she says, "Well, they contracted Focus West to have you shoot." I said, "Let me call the office and see what's up." So all of a sudden I wasn't staying anymore for surfing, but I had a real job and I was getting paid, and I was going to work for Sports Illustrated, which was pretty cool. It was just everything turned out right. So the picture that ran was just a picture of the start, and it was just the way I framed it, but it's hundreds of swimmers in the water at one time. By Monday afternoon, they knew my picture was going to be the double truck opener, and they called me and congratulations, so on and so forth. So that was my first start. When you get those opportunities, you have to be ready to take advantage of those opportunities. Like if I hadn't done a good job, then you probably wouldn't be sitting here interviewing me right now. So, 86 was the first job, was that. And it was October or something, '86, whenever the Ironman is. So that kind of put me on the radar for Sports Illustrated. I did a lot of little things for the book, but that was good for me because it got me in with the editors, and they knew what kind of work I could do, and I became a dependable person and whatnot. And then, so they started feeding me baseball games, and they started feeding me football games. And one thing I had been shooting actually a fair amount of for the stock agency was hockey, because nobody really cared about the LA Kings. They weren't a very good team. They weren't that popular. And then all of a sudden, Wayne Gretzky gets traded to Los Angeles. So the magazine called and said, okay, you've shot some hockey. Gretzky's there in LA. You're kind of our hockey guy for up there. So I started shooting a lot of hockey. That got me into the other sports area. It was the same thing. They see the type of work that you can do. But the Gretzky thing lasted for, 7 years, 6 years. And then he got traded to St. Louis. And so my hockey fell off. But right about that time, we started a special edit, which was called Golf Plus. So at that point, they called and said, hey, do you want to start shooting golf? And I said, why not? Because it's a lot of days. And started doing that, and then like 2 years after we started Golf Plus, this guy named Tiger Woods became a PGA Tour player. So that was, from the triathlon to Gretzky, then the Tiger Woods, it was all just kind of falling into place all the time. Well, as far as favorite places go, I think the Olympics in Vancouver, one of my favorites. Leading up to Vancouver, we really did it right, and we did a lot of X Games stuff. Snowboarding was new to the Olympics. So that was really exciting to be able to do that. And the fact that the gold medal hockey game came down to the Team USA, Team Canada. It's in Canada. They win in overtime. It was the last Olympic event of the Olympics. That was surreal. That was one of the most fun times I've ever had. Super Bowls are fun. Golf was always a lot of fun. And the Masters is a special place. To me, and I'm not even a golfer, but to go to Augusta, and it's so gorgeous, and the crowds are kind of different, and it's just such a different type of tournament. And even though we're not allowed inside the ropes like we are at normal tournaments, it works because nobody's inside the ropes, and there's very little TV presence out on the course to get in your way. So it's really pretty. It's really pretty cool. I love beach volleyball, and it's the same thing. You can kind of move around a little bit and get different angles. Surfing is always going to be one of my favorite things to shoot. One of the things I've seen in the last few years with our tour is the players are being able to show more of their personality. When we first started, it was pretty quiet out there as far as the players were concerned. There wasn't a lot of bickering, amongst players. There wasn't a lot of yelling at refs. And not that I, think I don't think it's good to yell at refs, but there's got to be a little bit of interaction between everybody on the court, because that's what draws out your personality. Two of them that come to mind are Randy Stoklos images, and one is he's jousting at the net with Mike Dodd, and I think it was in Colorado. I think both of them were, but it's just the perfect timing, and their hands are on it, and they're both pushing at the same time. And those balls aren't that hard, and if you get it just right, you can see how they really deflate. Your eye doesn't catch it when you're watching, but both hands are squishing the ball, and it's just the perfect moment at the top. That's one. Another one is Randy Stoklos, and it's just kind of the quality of light. It wasn't a real harsh light. It was just kind of cool, almost flat. And he's jump setting. And Randy's a big boy and very muscular, and it's like a Bruce Weber type of shot, because he's not wearing a shirt and stuff. And it's just perfect. And he's framed, and he really stands out from the crowd and stuff. So it's another favorite of mine. And then there's probably, I don't know how many frames of Karch Stoklos that just to me look like he's a superstar. And he was. I think to this day he's still the greatest of all time. And to be able to shoot so many matches of his was pretty cool. The only other thing, and I'm sure there's probably other ones, but there was another golf one with Tiger at the Masters. Off of 11, his tee shot went into the trees. Kind of lined myself up behind another tree that was in front of him, and Stevie had seen me. I think there was maybe one other guy who was much further down, but he looked at me and he just kind of nodded like, okay, you can stay, but you know what to do or what not to do. And so Tiger, when he eventually hits that shot, he was behind the tree. You can't see his head or anything. Hits the shot, and he breaks his club as he hits the shot. So my frame is the ball coming out of all the pine needles, which are spraying. His club is at a V shape wrapped around the tree, and we ran it as our cover. I don't know, those are kind of little tidbits. I mean, like I said, there's nothing like the Brandy Chastain one. I got the assignment to shoot that final game, and we had two other guys who were actually on the field, Peter Reed Miller and George Tiedemann. And one was in one corner and the other was in another corner. And I was shooting an elevated position, kind of up in the crowd. So then the game goes on, and we figure that it's going to end in a tie. And I didn't even know what they would do. And Todd said, well, they'll have penalty kicks. I said, which end do you think it's going to be? And he figured it would be at the other end from where we were because of the sun, and they didn't want to have it in the goalie's eyes or something. So I said, okay, we got to get down on the field because we're too far away. We were way at one end. And he said, well, how are we going to do it? We don't have field credentials. And this is before 9/11, so there was security, but not like now. And I said, okay, we're going to go to the far tunnel, and when the regulation's over, we'll just go on because everyone's going to be getting busy for the kicks. I was like, okay, so we just packed everything up, and we had a lot of gear, and we walked around and went to that tunnel, game ends, and so we just walked on. No one even checked our credentials. So all the photographers had gone to the other end, no matter where they were on that field. And so one guy, George, is in one corner and Peter was in the other, and I thought I looked behind the goal and there was nobody. And I said, Todd, let's just go behind the goal. And we went, and we had to go over this little fence, and we start setting up, and this guy from the LA Times comes in, and he says, can we shoot from here? I said, I don't know, nobody's here. It's like an open spot. And he starts setting up, and security came, like a head security guy. He says, what are you guys doing in there? You're not allowed to be behind the goal. And I said, oh, I didn't know. And he says, okay, come on, you guys got to get out. So we started getting our stuff together again, and they physically came in and removed the guy from the Times. He didn't have that much stuff, and he was by himself. And they get him out, and we're just about to stand up and get all our stuff out, and the security guy says, they're about to start their kicks. You can't move now. So just stay there, and while they're kicking, don't move at all. So now we're in a spot we're not supposed to be, and it comes down to Brandy's last kick. If she makes it, they win, and so forth. So I framed it. We're shooting actually through the net, and in the original frame, you can kind of see where the net is. I mean, I'm shooting wide open, so you don't see it as much, but there's just kind of like delineation of those pixels there. But I figured, okay, I'm going to frame it as horizontal, so the team was behind her. If she makes it, they'll all come running up. It'll be this big celebration. I'm in the right place. And who knew that she makes the kick and goes to her knees and takes her top off and is screaming. And it seemed like it lasted forever, and I'm sure it didn't. And all the women are charging up from behind. And then we have to shoot everything. They're running all over the stadium, and they get the awards and stuff. So it wasn't, again, we take our film to the airport and it's shipped back. I mean, it's not digital days. We don't know what we have. I'm guessing what I have. I'm thinking I have a good shot. I'm hoping it's exposed properly because it's, side lit and you have to process it a little bit differently. And the guy, Peter, was giving me a ride to the airport. And I kept thinking, Peter, what do you think? Do I push, in those days you would have to push or pull film when you process it to make it properly exposed. And chrome had to be perfect. If you were off by a stop, it didn't look right when you printed it. It's not like today where you're off a little bit, you can monkey around in Photoshop and stuff. And finally, and he knew where I was. He had the shot, but he's from a corner, and he knew it wasn't as good as being straight on. And he just finally turned to me, he says, just shut up and just mark it whatever you want, because he was so tired of hearing it. And the next day, Jeff Weig was editor, and he called and he says, man, you nailed it. That's our cover this week. And part of what makes it a really good cover is what happened and when it happened and how it happened. But they didn't put all these other blurbs on the cover about all the other stories that are going to be in that issue, and Junket just said yes, and it was Brandy. It wasn't until a few years later, and I actually met Brandy, and she was working there was this little 4-team tournament in San Francisco Bay Area. She was talking to someone else. I was kind of waiting. I was kind of grubby because we were putting in lights and you kind of get sweaty and dirty and all this. And so the other person leaves and she says, "Hi, can I help you?" And I said, "Yeah, my name is Robert Beck. I'm the photographer who took that picture on the cover of Sports Illustrated." And she jumps on me and she has her arms around me, she has her legs wrapped around me, and she's screaming and she's really emotional. I mean, she's almost crying. And there's not a lot of people in there. They're all just TV guys and stuff getting ready for the game, cameramen and whatever. And they're all looking at me, and I'm kind of looking around like, I don't know what's going on either. And she finally gets down and she goes through the whole thing. She says, "You don't understand what that meant to me, to my team, to hundreds of thousands of little girls in our country and around the world who know now that they can be athletes, they can be on the cover of Sports Illustrated, they can be famous, that they're important too, our game is important." And I never really thought of it like that. The social aspect, the social impact that photograph made was way beyond, my comprehension. I do enjoy shooting the AVP, and it takes up most of my time in the summer, but I always look forward to it because part of it is I enjoy the AVP family. Part of it is I enjoy shooting beach volleyball. I mean, I think it's really exciting. There's a lot of color, there's a lot of action, and like I said, the players are becoming more outgoing. You see more of what they have going on. I mean, I look forward to it. It's great places, and it's like a ready-made product, and all I have to do is record what's going on. And it's exciting, and there is always that perfect picture to me is still out there somewhere, still working on it. We get a lot of good ones every tournament, but there's going to be some diamond in the rough sometime that we'll get. I'm Robert Beck, and I hope to see you out on the courts at an AVP tournament soon. Make sure you all get in the background of my pictures. If everybody squeezes in that first spot and you make it look really crowded, I'll get the picture, and you'll be in it.